Hi there, my name is Memo, this is my channel Houseplanty Goodness, and it's a place where essentially I like to geek out, hopefully with you, about my big passion, which is tropical houseplants. You might be able to see some behind me. Well, as a new YouTube content creator, it does really help if you like this video, drop a like down below. I also bring out regular content like this. Each week I'll bring out 2 to 3 videos, so if you like things like this, do consider subscribing as well. So without further ado, let's go into what I want to show you or talk about a bit today. And essentially it's another repot, unfortunately, with me. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. There's been some good comments on some of the other repots and people are asking nice questions, and we've got a bit of a discussion happening in the comments down below, which is great. We're building a bit of a community, which is lovely. Today's plant that I want to be repotting, because it's that time of the year where everything needs a repot, which is great, it means they're growing, is none other, and I cannot remember the scientific name for this, but the pregnant onion. And you might be able to see I've chopped off the tips because they were browning a bit, but I think this has been struggling because it hasn't really grown, and it's been a consistently strong grower for me. The thing that I just pulled out now, which is quite interesting, is the spent inflorescence stem, essentially. So that's ready to go. You might be able to see if I bring it up, and it is dripping everywhere because I have watered it today. You might be able to see right there why it's called a pregnant onion, because it's got little bulblets like what is down here, which is the reason why it's called an onion, essentially, because it looks a bit like an onion and it has papery skin that kind of flakes off in terms of how the foliage is growing as well. But the main reason why I bought this, and it's not as common in the UK to find this, not because it's massively rare, it's just because not that many people are aware of it here, I don't think. Whilst I think in America and the US it tends to be a bit more of a popular house plant, so I think you probably find it a bit more readily in the big box stores like Lowe's. I think potentially might be one that has this. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I've got anybody watching from the States, do let me know down below. But the reason why I decided to get this, and I can't remember if it was a podcast, if it would have been a podcast, it would have either been On the Ledge podcast or the Plant Daddies podcast, because they're the 2 big ones that I listen to when it comes to plants, or it could have been an article online. I do tend to fall into holes of research when I'm looking at new plants to bring into my collection. This plant, interestingly enough, the leaves are quite succulent, not quite to the level of the aloe vera, but they're quite succulent. And a lot of cultures that have this growing natively to them use the sap from these leaves on wounds like insect bites, and I think potentially some snake bites, not necessarily venomous because it's not an anti-venom necessarily, but it does help soothe some of that irritation around the skin. So I got this in order to use last summer because of mosquitoes, and I can confirm it does really help to take away some of that irritation, not entirely, but it does definitely help soothe it. The same way that if you put aloe vera on a burn, this does soothe it for about the same amount of time, essentially. So really, really cool plant, but it has definitely outgrown the tiny pot that it's in. So I thought, let's repot it. Now I have watered it, so it's either going to be really easy to come out of the pot or really difficult. Let's see, shall we? Really easy, and a great example of something that is massively root bound. I'll bring it up to the camera so you might be able to see. They're very, very, very healthy roots. You can see how white those roots are, and hopefully it will focus, but definitely about time for a repot. You can see that it's going around and around. Right there at the bottom. I'll bring it in closer to the camera and hopefully that will focus. Right, so nice clean removal as well from the previous pot. So what you would do is another terracotta pot, because at the end of the day this is a succulent, so I want to make sure that no water is kind of stagnating around the roots. And yeah, essentially let's get to filling. My trusty pre-mixed bag of my soil mix. If anybody wants to know what soil mix this is my chunky aroid mix that I pretty much use for most things now, even succulents, because it's so airy and it doesn't retain that much moisture essentially. If you want to know how I make this, there's a video on my channel, do check it out as well, and I think I've put a link underneath that video with all the different ingredients and where I bought them from. Spoiler alert, mainly Amazon, and they're quite affordable. So my trusty little scoop, I will add that in, and always put a little base layer of soil underneath where you're going to pot the new plant. Make sure, if at all possible, that it's slightly under the top of the pot, because you want to make sure that you're able to water it and the water doesn't overflow every time you water. But yeah, let's talk care a bit about this plant. So essentially I treat it like a succulent. So I have it in a south-facing window, gets baking sun all day long, and interestingly it's very, very, very thirsty. So I water it maybe about every 5 to 6 days. I might need to pull back now that I've repotted it into larger media, because it will take longer for that soil to dry out, but I'm going to monitor it for the first couple of waterings. Trusty little moisture meter probe is what you're going to need. So pop that in there. Even more so with this plant than other plants, you want to make sure that it's as close as possible to the lip, but just underneath it, because the little bulblets or the little onions are going to need to get some light in order to photosynthesize. And then essentially just make sure that you're filling in the soil around the existing root ball, making sure, and this is something I used to see a lot of people do, and I used to do as well. I used to pat the soil into the nooks and crannies, and apparently that can be quite detrimental, because all the lovely little air pockets that you're putting in with the chunky soil mix are then getting compacted. So what you should be doing instead, in order to make the new soil mix homogeneous, is you pick it up and you tap the pot, and it will kind of, what you'll see is you'll see some of the soil go in. I just want to make sure that it's got enough soil there at the top level, and that is repotted into another lovely terracotta pot. This is an older pot that I'm reusing. This is the beauty with terracotta. You just need to clean them down after you've removed a plant from them, and they're ready for the next plant whenever that needs repotting. I won't be watering this. As I said, I watered it this morning because I wanted to get it out of the terracotta, so it's still got quite a lot of moisture in the soil, but I will probably look to water it again in 2 or 3 days time, because obviously those roots that we took out are now exposed to dry soil. So I just want to make sure that they're not drying out too much. But yeah, a bit more about the pregnant onion. And if you've got any questions, comments, do drop them down below. Let's have that conversation. And in the meantime, I hope you've enjoyed. Hopefully I shall see you here soon, and hope that you have a great rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.